Welcome to Penguicon 2018. Tom Lawrence and
Jay LaCroix.
Look who I ran into! I'm Wendell. This is Penguicon. Well, no, I mean, I'm just some bozo wandering around at Penguicon. I'm a man with a mission. I've got to deliver the System 76 Threadripper monster, the Thelio. It's a really beastly machine so that Eric Raymond can work on things like Go-based Repo Surgeon and Go-based other handy utilities. I gotta use Repo Surgeon for other things. So it's fun chatting with Eric Raymond and playing board games and getting into all that, because there's a lot of board games here. But Penguicon's not just board games. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in the Penguin After Dark, the 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. A lot of parties. In fact, the entire third floor and fifth floor, I think, are party floors. I'm not really brave enough to brave all of that, but it's interesting. It's an interesting mix of technology and things that people might be curious about in various interesting ways. There's a maker market where you can get all sorts of fun things. I found this leather-bound edition of Lord of the Rings that I'm sure Krista would really love, but I mean, it's cool. It's books. It's a handicraft. It's people making things with their hands. Stan Lee is coming home with me for the ride. Bead Stan Lee. I mean, that was in the arts and crafts section. There's a nice arts and crafts section at Penguicon where there's a lot of handmade stuff, wooden chess set, corsets if you're into that kind of thing, and, all sorts of handmade steampunkery. There's still a fair bit of steampunkery. Gadgets and Wizmos and whatever. That's pretty cool. Well, actually, you should check out the programming track. So here's the programming track on the web, and you can just look through this. There's a lot of interesting stuff and a lot of very mature subject material here, but that is also being treated very maturely. So again, that's pretty good props for the Penguicon community in order to be able to handle those kinds of things pretty well. So board games are a big part of Penguicon, and I have to admit, the board games are growing on me a little bit. This year I got to play Gizmos, which was a surprising amount of fun. You're a mad scientist at the Mad Scientist Fair, and you start to build all sorts of contraptions, and you chain events together. So, you pick energy from this hopper thing, and there's different kinds of energy, and depending on what your machine does, it might cause you to be able to pick more energy, or it might give you random energy, and then you build things using the energy that you collect and the different kinds of energy that Gizmos is kind of fun. Also played Junk Orbit, which is pretty fun. I don't really know how to explain it except that you're a rocket ship and you have junk on board. And in order to change to move, you have to eject junk from your ship. And you can collect the local junk where you are, but then when you want to get somewhere else, you huck junk out the back of the ship in order to make the ship go forward. We also got to take a look at some new technology, some different stuff. Got to go to a panel with Michael Lucas, the author of a bunch of books, but his latest is FreeBSD Mastery Jails, which he calls his Avengers Endgame. The books on ZFS that he has with Alan Jude, those books are amazing books if you need an introduction to the ZFS file system. And the ZFS has $1 billion of R&D development in it. It is an amazing file system. It's like, would you like to use $1 billion file system in your computer? It's like, well, okay, sounds good. And you can, use that with Jails and get some really cool features with Jails and IO Cage and that sort of stuff. So that's a lot of fun. Also picked up a couple other ones, although they were sold out of Ed Mastery. But got to introduce Eric Raymond to Ed Mastery, and he had a few passages that he would like to share.
In this bleak age, when search algorithms dredge up shoddily assembled how-tos and pass them off as authoritative documents, providing for the next generation of sysadmins is one of the most vital tasks we face as a profession. I don't want the servers managing my retirement funds managed by so-called sysadmins who struggle against the pomposity of X. Study the Ed source with this book at your side in combination with a good C reference, such as the 1978 edition of the C programming language by the esteemed Brian Kernighan and Dennis Ritchie. If they could write a complete operating system using a line printer for output, you can handle your itty-bitty tasks.
I have a lot of fun at Penguicon, in case you can't tell. It's fun to connect with old friends. It's fun to make new friends. It's fun to work on different projects and see what other people are up to. I mean, you've got the soldering and the liquid nitrogen ice cream, which I mentioned before, and so many intellectuals and pundits, but also just a lot of people in costume. And sometimes the Venn diagram of those things overlap. Sometimes not so much. But this is Penguicon. It's unique. It's in Southfield, Michigan. You should check it out next year because, hey, more friends. 19 people for Level 1 came up and said, hey, Level 1, how's it going? Most of them said they like our stuff. So that's good. Maybe we're doing something right. More than ever. So kudos to everybody that said hello. And kudos to everybody that just, sort of gave me the nod or the frowny face when I was playing with my phone on Twitter. Whatever. It's fine. I'm Wendell. It's Level 1. That's just how we roll. Penguicon. Penguicon's a lot of fun. And it was a lot of fun to deliver that system to Eric Raymond. Oh, and I've got a full interview with Eric Raymond. It's only about 20 minutes long, give or take, maybe a little less with editing. And you should check that out if you're into hearing from one of the legends, living, somebody that was historically very involved, basically at ground zero on this whole open source explosion thing. So it's really interesting to hear his perspective and thoughts on things. I'm Wendell, this is Level 1, and I'll see you in the Level 1 forums if you have any questions, or if I forgot anything. Somebody was like, oh, you need to add that to the video. Penguicon. I'll see you. I've figured out how to compile the kernel, but I'll never unlock the human heart. Penguicon. I introduced Eric Raymond to Stellaris, so if his productivity tanks spectacularly, sorry. Stellaris is a 4X game. It's a lot of fun. He's going to be playing that on his massive System 76 system, and that is going to be a lot of fun. So,